Welcome to the Mothership Podcast. I'm Louise Nevitt, and today I am joined by a very inspirational woman that I'm very happy to be interviewing today. She's an author of a book called Me to We, How to Rediscover Yourself and Truly Thrive in Motherhood. Rebecca Hogan is mum of one. She is a life coach and she works with mothers who are ready to unlearn the guilt, reclaim their identity and confidently become the whole woman that they desire to be. Rebecca weaves vision work and seasonal living into everything she does to help women hold big goals whilst honouring their own pace as an antidote to the burnout and the bounce back culture that completely exhausts so many of us. So hello, Rebecca, and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
So we're going to delve a little bit deeper into your ways of working and the methodology and how you actually support mothers through with your idea of seasonal living and identity support. But if listeners are to take one thing away from our conversation today, what would that be?
To me, it comes back to that mum guilt norm that we all seem to think it's, just part of being a mum, that we feel mum guilt. And I'd like people to question that more. I'd like mums to question that more and to give themselves a chance to sort of get curious about it, because it can really, really affect us and really knock us. It's a lot of self-doubt, a lot of, it knocks our confidence a lot. So I think it's really important not to go, oh, mum guilt, and to actually work out, is it something I should feel guilty about? Or is it something that I can reframe and release and, not let it knock me in any way?
I think that's an interesting place to start, because so many women talk about mum guilt. And I think the phrase is used a lot, isn't it? It's thrown around for lots of different things. But I feel like there's some situations where mothers feel it particularly, and that tends to be, when they're being torn in two different directions, maybe, whether it's socially, whether it's with work. I feel like that's an area of mum guilt that we can maybe explore a little bit now. Why do you think people struggle with that kind of push and pull between the two worlds of whether it be socially or work or whatever? Why do you think?
I think that's the fundamental sort of transformation of matrescence, isn't it? That navigating being us and being true to ourselves and actually working out who we are once we become a mum, because it changes absolutely everything. And understanding matrescence helps you sort of balance that guilt or reframe that guilt or work through that guilt, because it is ultimately that understanding of you're not just you anymore. You've got this very important being that you are a caretaker of, and it's working out what that means. And we live in a world where we're seen to be or expected to be perfect, self-sacrificing, people-pleasing, and that perfect mother myth is just so unobtainable. It's so out of reach for us as human beings that we're constantly grappling with what's enough. And I think that's why the personal values piece is really important, of knowing that you need to be and deserve to be whole yourself. Like you say, have a social life, be able to earn money to provide for yourself and your family. And that doesn't take away from you being able to be the mum you want to be. But obviously that's really complex and there's lots in there to unpack and unpick and work through.
Yeah. And I think the ideas of being ambitious, for example, being an ambitious woman and being a mother are often seen as being competing, as if that they can't coexist. You can't possibly want to be successful at your career or want to be ambition and have ambition, whether it's on a career point of view or another area of your life, if you also want to be a good mother.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that alone is something that a lot of women that I work with, especially, and I know you do really, really struggle with, because how do we stop feeling guilty for wanting both those things?
Yeah. And we need both those things. So to be the independent, empowered sort of female that we all want to be these days, or a lot of us want to be these days, we have to do both. We have to find a way to do both. And guilt is what makes it really hard for us.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why it's so important to unpick it. I mean, becoming a mum was such a game changer for me because it was the first time I had to I had to get comfortable with being overdoing. So, that classic, if you've got a partner or a husband, they come home and it looks like you've done nothing all day. And you're like, but I've been doing all day. But a lot of what you're doing as a mum is being with your child. So you
Yeah.
haven't really got you've kept a human being alive, it's massive, but you haven't really got anything to show for the house is a bomb site. You haven't done the laundry or you've half done it and, there's piles of stuff everywhere or there's all these jobs that you used to be able to just tick off your list. And now you're being with your baby. And that's a lot of what mothering is. It's that sort of nervous system safety, isn't it, for you and your child, which maybe you've never really focused on before. I used to just perform at very high levels of stress, just sort of go through life thinking that was normal. And then when I became a mum and I was having to manage, baby wouldn't stop crying, and then a toddler that would have tantrums out in public, and then a child that was struggling to go to school. How you manage that is not by just being busy, is it?
No.
List. You have to be with them. You have to be with them in those moments, and that was like that's been the biggest shift and the biggest learning that I've had to make. Yeah.
Yeah. I love in your book, you call it human, well, you highlight human being, not human doing. I
Yeah.
love that. I read that sentence and I was like, oh my God, yes, it's so true.
It is, isn't it?
Our lives like go, 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 go with this vision of maybe what success is or what our goals are. I was talking to someone else the other day about this, where you set the goal, you achieve the goal, you set the goal, you achieve the goal. And then you become a mum and it's like, hey, why isn't that working anymore?
That's a masculine linear view of success, isn't it? That you progress, that you go up the stairs one at a time and it's even and balanced and you grow and you evolve and you just get there. Whereas like you say, it's a lot more like a circle.
And when someone partner comes home and the house is a mess and but you feel exhausted and you feel like you've been on all day and not stopped,
Yeah.
then there's that feeling of judgment of like, oh, but I haven't just been
Yeah.
and you're not getting that validation that you would have got before a job of job well done for getting the sale, well done for sealing off that project, whatever it might have been. You
It's so
don't
much
get
more, yeah, you don't get that reward or recognition. And it's so much more visible as well, what you've achieved. Like you say, it's tangible. You can say, I achieved this, or I did that, or the house looks nice, or, whatever it is. And like you say, you don't get that pat on the back because you just kept a human being alive for another day.
yeah, that's
And
not
how well,
enough. I want the star.
and how well you do that isn't really seen, is it? You feel that more than you see that. So we know ultimately when we've done a good job as a mum, but then we shouldn't also beat ourselves up when we've had a tricky day, a tough day, and it hasn't gone as well. So it's really complex.
From your own experiences. So you wrote the book because you lived the experiences and you kind of worked through your own experience of coaching and got to where you are now. I'd really love to hear a bit more about that. Like, who was Rebecca before you became a mum and what kind of led you to what you do now?
Yeah. I had already made a career shift though. So I'd been in corporate. So I started off in like creative design agencies as like an account handler. So I was very good at managing, oh, this is what the client needs, and then having to manage it internally, like keeping everyone, trying to keep everyone happy and get the job done. And then I ended up in corporate marketing, which is obviously so different, huge, big machines that corporates are. And I just lost the passion. It was very masculine. It was very political. And I just thought, I just was exhausted, to be honest. I was completely worn out and just felt it was chaos. And I just stopped it out. So I trained to be a reflexologist because I was actually going through a lot of fertility treatment because I had a long fertility journey. And I was really loving all the therapies. And I was loving how they made me feel. But I just recognized that I was having these treatments, spending this money that I was earning, giving it to other people to like feel well. I was like, this doesn't really make sense. So I really enjoyed helping other women. And I ended up getting all these phone calls, women that were trying to conceive, that wanted to become mums. And I wasn't a mum myself yet, but I went off and did all these courses, so it was sort of helping me on my journey and helping other
Yeah.
others. And I was really able to help other people. But I really was struggling myself. And then when I became a mother and I was still doing the therapies, I again sort of felt at that discomfort of, I know this isn't enough for them. They need to change more than just having an hour in the treatment room every
Yeah.
so often. Even if they're coming once a week, it's like they need to change more. And that's when I got into coaching. And I also got into coaching because I wanted to be the best mum I could be. And I suppose I hadn't worked out this nervous system element of needing to be. So I didn't know that until I did coaching, that that's what I was missing.
Mm. And did you do the coaching before you became a mother?
No. So my daughter was pandemic times. So that gave me the permission to sort of step back and have that chance to throw myself into the coaching training. So yeah, it was beneficial for people in some ways. A lot of people changed careers, didn't they, at that time?
Absolutely. You
Yes.
know, it was like we had no choice.
So
It's quite an
powerful.
incredible moment in a lot of ways, like for people retraining and rediscovering and just kind of being able to explore what they wanted. It really encouraged people to look inwards, I think, in a lot of levels.
Absolutely. So it was before the pandemic that I'd found the word matrescence. And then I used the time in COVID to read Amy's book. So we've both become mummerizing coaches, facilitators through Amy Ted Kabaz. So I heard her on the Motherkind podcast with Zoe Blasky. And I think a lot of people would claim that podcast as the moment they were like, this is what it is. This explains everything, this word matrescence. And so I devoured her book, a mummerizing book. And then I joined the training straight away. I actually became a holistic coach and an ICF coach before that. But I'd say the time when I actually started helping mums, the holistic training was brilliant. It really aligned with my complementary therapies. But this whole matrescence and the identity transformation, the shift, I didn't know about until later. Yeah.
And how did that, obviously, as part of the training, you have to answer the questions yourself and you use the methods that you probably now use with your clients. How was that experience for you?
But it's amazing. It's kind of just validating, isn't it? That what you've been through yourself and what you've learned and what has helped you does hold truth for so many. It's like it is a thing. This perfect
Yeah.
mum myth, and trying to be the worker mum and the at home mum. It is a thing. It is a whole huge transformation that we can't. I hate the term bounce back.
Yeah.
We're not going back to do everything we did before. We have to reevaluate things. Our passions and our creativity, our creativity fires up, doesn't it? And our passions
Yeah.
change so much. And we're like, it was the first time when I became a mum. I mean, I'd always felt like I was a bit of a feminist, wanting equality for women, wanting to be financially independent, wanting to be in control of my own destiny, not to be told what to do by a partner or a husband. I wanted to be able to hold true to myself. And to me, unfortunately, that does mean in this world that we need to earn our own money to feel like financially secure and in control. I
Yeah.
feel it's been a very healthy partnership. I think it's something I feel I need. I just think it's really powerful to know that all women need to spend time to work out who they are once they become a mum. Piece
Yeah.
I see it as like getting a jigsaw and you throw it up in the air and all the pieces come down, but also they're different sizes and shapes. So we've really got to like piece ourselves back together. And
Yeah.
that's when you can get rid of that inner splits that you feel between you and work and you and your child and like make it all fit back and feel comfortable with it. And yeah,
Yeah.
call it that whole self, feeling like your whole self again. And motherhood is part of that, but we shouldn't feel like it has to be all of us, because actually we're the best models for our children if they see us doing all the things we want to do. And that's when we're happiest, and that's when we thrive, and that's therefore when they thrive too, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think as if more people knew that anyway, just as a normal assumption of life, then I think, yeah, everyone, including families, husbands, partners,
Yeah.
kids, everyone would be happier because the women tend to be the matriarchs of the family, we are the thermostat of the house. somebody described it as. And it's true, because I know for sure in my house, if I'm having a hormonal week, everyone is miserable.
It's true. Thermostat's a really good analogy for it, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
But I think when I did the Mama Rising training, going through that coaching myself was such a profound experience in my life.
Mm.
And I think people, when I've gone on to be a coach, people are often kind of like, well, what is matrescence coaching? Like, what does that look like? What would I get out of it? And obviously we learn and we go through so many different concepts, which are all groundbreaking. But I just find that it's interesting to be able to kind of explain a bit more about like what people can get out of it. I think in your book you touch on so many different methods of coaching, and I really love the fact that you encourage people to constantly ask why are they feeling a certain way, why are they reacting like this, why are you losing your temper, why do you believe that about yourself? Why do you think why is such an important thing for us to ask ourselves as mothers?
Curiosity, isn't it, that gives you that awareness that you need before you can make any sort of steps forward. So there's two different ways of looking at things, isn't there? There's you can just make peace with something or get a different perspective around something. So that's mindset work where you go, okay, I feel like this is why, and you just sort of understand yourself more and you can be more confident in, okay, that's how I feel and that's why, and that's great, and you make peace with it. But then there's the other piece, which is where we need to actually be prompted to make changes. So if you're getting frustrated, if there's a sort of hot point in your day, like I use that example where hubby comes home and I'm cooking dinner and I'm still at the stage, even though my daughter is 10, she doesn't eat exactly the same as us. And I know people would say, oh, you should just make her, but I don't. I don't want to. I've made peace with the fact that that's not how I do things. I don't want to do it like that. But it is harder for me because I try and make it as simple as possible with as little changes to the meal as possible. I'm still trying to navigate that. It's normally when my husband's walking in the door, it's going on the plates kind of thing. And it's a stressful time. Yeah. So, okay, let's get into that then. Why is it stressful? How can I adjust things and make it better? And part of that can be just communicating with the other people. So making sure my daughter's not also trying to get me to help her with a craft she's trying to make, and that my husband's not coming in and expecting me to have a conversation about something else, like that everybody understands that, okay, this is a bit of time of day where it's a bit more going on. And, can he help? Can she help? And just really looking into what's going on and what could be better, what could be done differently. And it could be that I just say she has to eat the same meal as us, but it could be other things. Yeah. So it's, to me, that's where you're getting curious with who you really are and how you're really feeling in life and what is actually going on. And are there patterns of behavior you need to change? Do you just need to take a breath and calm down? There's lots of different things, and all of us are individuals and we'll all have different answers to that why and what's going on and how can I make it better. And
Yeah. I think as well, asking yourself why in all those different situations. And if it is, as you say, communicating with the people around you and saying, look, this is what's going on with me right now. Can you do or not do this? That then leads back to that idea about the mum guilt. Because if everybody is aware of the situation and you're happier and calmer and not losing your mind over something, then the situations never occur that you have to feel guilty about. If you're
yes.
communicating with everybody and everyone understands what's happening with you, then that kind of alleviates a bit more of the level of feeling bad about something later.
Yeah, it's like being a team, isn't it? Rather than feeling like it's all on you and you can't ask for help and you're trying to hold it all together and you can't show emotion and all of that perfect mother myth of I have to be this robot, which is impossible. And then
Mhm.
being able to just say, look, this is how it is and this is what's going on. How can we all help as a team? Yeah.
Yeah.
Get
I
the
think
different table.
Yeah, that's a big thing, because I think a lot of the time, go through these experiences of feeling bad or feeling stressed about things, and you just kind of think, right, just crack on with it, don't you? A lot of the time, and actually, that's not the way that it should be. You should be able to say when you're struggling and asking for
Mm.
help. In fact, the last episode that came out of this podcast was about how often mothers find the absolute hardest thing to do is to ask for help. And I think it's
Mhm.
really true. So at the end of your book, towards the end, I think it is about just how difficult it can be when you're on maternity leave and maybe you don't have your own income, or you're having to ask for money, or you're, even if you're not on maternity anymore, but you're just, the cost of living, how it keeps rising, it's super expensive. But then that women also have an additional spend on top about having all the things that are expected of us, like getting our hair done is more expensive, the cost of beauty and the cost of keeping up with what is expected culturally. And I love that you ask in the book, think about why are you spending that money, and it's just all kind of links together for this why. But could you talk a little bit about that idea of
So when I first became a mum, I was not interested really. I mean, obviously I did still get my hair done and I was still managing to slap some moisturizer on and clean my face at night and stuff like that. Um, but it's what's important to you, isn't it? And I don't want to be spending time. I actually saw it as a drain on my energy and resources to be spending a lot of time on myself. And I had enough clothes. I didn't need to go out and be buying new clothes. I did have all of that. So I suppose that helps if things still fit and all the rest of it. But I just see it as another drain on our time, and another way of pulling us away from what we really want and who we truly are, is to sort of set us up to be, well, you have to have your nails done. Well, it costs a lot of money to have your nails done all the time. And you know, all of these supplements now that we're targeted with, if you don't take collagen, you're going to regret it. And there's all this fear factor around it, it's all about making us feel not enough as we are. And we're all enough as we are. And what are we trying to aspire to? I mean, now we're living in a world where lots and lots of women are spending a lot of money on Botox and quite intensive beauty
mm,
treatments that actually could change us forever. The way we look could be bigger than we realize. Like, smoking wasn't seen to be harmful back then, was it? So yeah, I just really worry that it's just taking us away from who we really are and telling us what we should be doing, which is something women have always been targeted with, that good mother that stays at home and doesn't work and is self-sacrificing. And it's taking our power away, and it's taking our choice away, and it's actually making our lives a lot harder and a lot busier. Like, if you're trying to fit in a hair appointment, all the appointments, and do all of the things, like, how much time does it take you in your day to do all
yeah.
that stuff and even take those things, and the mental load of remembering to take those things and book those appointments? And it's another way of just keeping us busy and absorbed, and ultimately that is keeping us under some level of control.
And I think it's interesting to ask the question why behind that, because it's nice to look nice.
Oh
So
yes, I
if you are asking yourself, right, why am I spending my money on whatever it is, nails, hair, beauty, whatever? If the answer is really true to yourself, and true because actually doing that gives me a moment of self-care and makes me feel like, like, for instance, at night when you sit and have like
love
literally like a few minutes, but I can close the bathroom door and put my cream on,
absolutely.
and I love doing that. But then, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, because you've seen on Instagram that somebody else looks like 10 years younger than you and they're the same age, and that you feel like, oh my God, I should be buying that and I should be doing that, and it's that pressure,
Yeah.
then, maybe that's not the place to spend your money. But it's all like encouraging people to ask why, isn't it?
Yes.
And is that why in line with what their values are, really?
Yes, so I've started to notice that I resent, and I would use the word resent, which is quite a strong word, which I use in the book about, often as mums, we can start to resent our partners. And it's really important to pay attention to things that we are starting to resent or get frustrated and annoyed about, because there's power in that, because you can make change. And that's kind of the crunch points you need to be looking at. Hence the why question is really, really powerful there. But I started to notice that I started to resent spending 40 minutes every month dyeing my hair. I just do it myself with a box color because I have very sensitive skin. the hairdressers, I don't want to sit in the hairdressers that long. The dye hurts my head. So I found a box and it works. And I really like not having grey hair, but I have started to resent the time I'm spending. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm 50 now. And maybe it's okay if I have green hair. And that rebellious side of me is like, why am I dyeing my hair? Am I doing it for me because I don't want grey hair? I'm not ready to have grey hair. My hair colour suits my skin tone and makes me feel good, and I deserve to spend that money and that time on myself to feel good. Or am I doing it because I worry about the connotations of being a woman of that age that has grey hair?
Even then, you can sit and say, right, okay, so why am I doing that? And if the answer is, well, because I like to have coloured hair. Yeah,
Mm,
okay. So why do you like to have coloured hair?
mm,
Is it because you really love the coloured hair, or because we've been brought up
yeah.
and culturally messaging throughout our lives has told us that grey equals old and old is bad?
Yeah.
So it's like the rabbit hole.
And then it's reframing it. So then we get onto the reframe, don't we? So if you see grey as old, as weak, as invisible, not important anymore in society, which a lot of women hold those thoughts about themselves. So I don't think my mum would mind me mentioning her, but we've had these conversations between ourselves because my mum's in her 70s now. And she definitely has had those feelings of less than a certain age. And I am here to change that. I think we are strong, empowered, wise women that society has a lot to learn from. We've got a lot of wisdom by the time we get to 50, by the time we get to 70. And we are not going to take any rubbish anymore because we have lived our time and we know what's true and we know what we stand for. So yeah, it's about using that. And so therefore, if you can reframe grey hair as a sign of your wisdom and yeah, in a powerful way, but that's quite a bold thing to live each day. I'm still working through that, and that's a really good example of how we're always becoming and evolving, and Matrescence is always with us because as our kids age we come up with new ages and stages that challenge us and get us to have to ask all the why questions and work out if we're going to just reframe something or if we're going to actually make a change, make an
Yeah,
adjustment. Yeah, that's life, isn't it? It's about
yeah,
being at peace with ourselves. And we haven't been taught that. We weren't taught any of this stuff at school. I didn't learn that till I became a holistic coach, an ICF coach. And then when I became a Mama Rising coach, it was so powerful to know the term matrescence. And that's why I suppose I speak about that time of coaching the most, because yeah, that kind of identity shift is to know that it's an identity shift and that it's not just one point in time. It doesn't just happen in a week, a month, a year. It's ongoing. Is really, really powerful.
I think that for me has been one of the biggest learning curves. Slow down, that everything doesn't have to be done right now, that if you are unsure about who you are or who you're becoming or where you want to go in whatever area of life it is, if you haven't worked it out today, it's not the end of the world. That, to actually go into the feminine and, be slower and more accepting of the way that things are panning out. If I don't get everything done all at once, I have children and a career, and I also do this, and I have my own business that I'm building, and it doesn't go as fast as I would like it to. And a lot of times I'm like stressed out with myself, and then I have to remind myself, no, it's okay. It's okay to be slow. Yeah. For people that haven't heard that term before, what is seasonal living and how can it help us as mums?
Yeah. So if we start with the seasons of matrescence first, which is a model by Nikki McCann, that is very much about the fact that your pregnancy is a season, and then being a brand new mum is a season, and then you go into your sort of spring and summer where you're getting used to the way of the world again, and then you can sort of be blooming again more and living life and feeling more comfortable again in summer. But we go round that circle often. Like I said, with my daughter is starting to have to consider secondary schools. So that's another whole wheel, isn't it, for her? And therefore I'm going through it with her too.
Mm.
Me starting to think about, the next evolution of me when she goes to secondary school. She'll start walking herself to school and back. I won't be doing school anymore. There's grief there. There's grief there, but there's also gold there in terms of, well, that's a chance for me be more me as well. So yeah, it's like really all the emotions, isn't it? So we have these phases. So that's one way of seeing seasons. But then obviously there's the seasons of the year as well, isn't there? So I love September. To me, that's the real energizing start to a new year, that new academic year. Children go back to school, and like I say, they've stepped up into their next year. And it's a time when, yeah, it's lighter. In England, it's still quite light in the evenings, and there's lots we can get done before that sort of winter time. And I suppose wintering has been a time that I didn't understand until I really got into coaching and seasonal living, and that sort of beating myself up that I was finding I couldn't do all the Christmas parties and wasn't, banging into my goals and resolutions like I should. And now I recognize that that's not how I flow. And that's not actually how nature flows. And that's not how a lot of women flow. Is that winter's a time for dreaming and thinking and planning and, yeah, having that hope and excitement for the future. It's not really a time for getting back into the gym at 6, unless that's your thing and you've already embedded that habit and you want to keep it up. I change my exercise massively. What I do, I don't even call it exercise anymore. I call it movement. Exactly, a few stretches, and this is another season for me of what is my movement going to look like in September. I mean, one, I'm determined not to let it go over the summer holidays because it can feel really hard to fit it in when your children are off school so much over the summer, like your routines are all out. So one, I've got to nail that. I'm determined to nail that because I do have physical things that go wrong if I don't do certain things. But then, yeah, like if I'm not going to do that walk to school and back, where's my movement coming in? I'm going to have to think about that. So that's an example of not just seasonal, but yeah, life stage movement. And then as women, I don't have a cycle anymore because I had a full hysterectomy when my daughter was just 2. Hence why I then have one child as well. But I've had to think about, okay, what's my monthly cycle now? What are my energy flows and working with them, not against them? Because this whole hustle culture of that linear version of success and that always on, that's not feminine being, as we both know. We need to work with our own energies and our own rhythms and find our own routines that suit us. So in the summer, I wake up quite naturally about 5, and sometimes I'll just read. Other times, like when I wrote my book, I used to get up at 5 and write my book.
Amazing.
Because that's my own time. It's in my own control and I could go at my own pace. And it felt like almost extra time because no one expected anything of me till about 7. But in winter, I would never do that. And certain weeks of the month, I wouldn't do that. So I've really noticed, even before I lost my own natural cycles, I really noticed how the moon, like when you recognize your own patterns and your own energy cycles, and even how you think about yourself and your work. I used to have a wobble at the same time every month. And then I had to work that out by sort of just writing a couple of notes and, a couple of words in a diary, or, just sort of starting to plot it over time when I was feeling low. And it turns out for me, full moons are really tricky.
Yeah.
A lot of
It's
people think that's a time of high energy, but it's not for me. So you
mm,
might not be the same as even what people say are quite holistic, alternative patterns. They might not be yours. So that's a good analogy for finding your own energy flows and questioning yourself, like that why question again that you've mentioned.
yeah.
It's important to think, oh, why am I feeling like this? Is it because things are just hard, or do I have this each month?
My mood changes and my energy levels are very, very tied to my cycle. And
Mm.
it's like, I think a lot of the time when things can feel too much, or I'm really anxious or worried about something, from recognizing my own cycles, actually, yeah, turns out, oh, okay, that does happen at the same sort of time every month. And then you can recognize that actually, if you're feeling a certain way at a certain time, don't make any decisions at
Yeah,
that time,
yeah,
don't get divorced in those
yeah.
days.
It brings you comfort because you understand
Yeah.
yourself, and you go, oh, it's just that. And you can put it down to that. And it gives you sort of, like you say, that permission to go, don't do anything, don't worry about it, just be.
How would women know if they are fighting the season of time that they're in, or the season of of their matrescence or the season of their life that they're in? What's a kind of typical sign that they're not living in sync with that?
To me, it is those uncomfortable feelings that we don't like to admit to.
Mm.
We're trying to be the good mum, perfect mum. For me, it was frustration. It was starting to feel, a bit jealous of my husband that he had his, and this comes up a lot when I coach mums and even when I'm just doing sort of discussion type sessions with mums. I use the analogy of, well, if you're in the traditional family setup where you've taken mat leave and they're still got their usual routines, they've got their cake and eat, they get to eat it too. It doesn't mean it's easy for them. So me and my husband had some really good conversations early on about how it was hard for him too. And I really believe in matrescence as well, that they need to find their way. And it is about finding your way as a whole household. But it can feel like they're still getting to go and have that adult time and have that satisfaction of, fulfilling their own work ambitions and, maybe it's easier for them to go to the gym because they go at lunchtime or they go straight after work or it's like, where are you resenting someone, feeling envious of someone, jealous of someone? Have you got anger coming up? So I used to get feelings of anger, which I never played out. I remember that lack of control of wanting to leave the house on time so I wasn't late for something, needing to get them dressed. And that classic of the nappy's always filled just before you're about to literally walk. That used to give me quite a lot of anger. So being able to process that, one, you don't feel guilty about it. Two, you've done something with it. So you're not sort of bottling it down and just generally,
It needs to go somewhere.
letting it go, releasing it. They're all moments, aren't they? They're all emotions that you need to process. And if by asking the why, I mean, you need to ask yourself why sometimes 8 times, don't you, to actually get to the bottom
Yeah.
of what it
Mhm.
really is. It's not obviously the surface stuff. And when we feel these big emotions, it's often not just one thing. So when me and my husband don't really argue. We'll have moments where we're like disagreeing and maybe both trying to work out what to do about it. And it might be a bit uncomfortable, for a bit, but we don't have big rows. But when we have had big rows, it's never about one thing. It's about lots of things, isn't it?
Mm.
So it can be hard to pinpoint it. So it is about generally just getting curious, isn't it?
Yeah. A lot of the time it's the straw that broke the camel's back sort of thing, isn't it? It's like a combination of a lot of things that have maybe accumulated over time, and that can be applied to anything actually. If you're exploding over something ridiculous, or if something makes you cry, a lot of the time it's not because of what's actually set you off. It's
No.
the build up of everything that's happened up to that point.
And there'll be a theme underneath it, won't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
and going back to what you're saying about feeling anger and not feeling guilt about that, like, I think there's still a very big taboo about women talking about feeling the rage or feeling angry or exploding over something, because nobody likes to talk about those things. But it is important to know that if you do have feelings like that, you're not the only one, and that it is quite a normal part. And I think talking about things like that and having a community to chat about things with is a really important part of my motherhood journey and the work that I do. And I know that um there was a part in your book where you were saying about going to the mums groups and wanting to open up to people, but people didn't really want to have those conversations. And I know that community is a really important thing for you, building community. And you have Dream and Do, which is a part of your offering. So do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, Dream and Do was one of the first things that I set up. So my first coaching that I mentioned, the holistic coaching, was when I found out about having a vision. And having a vision can really help you because it can help you pace your ambition and, make you think you don't have to do everything all now. You can have all these lovely goals and ideas and ambitions, but you can get them all down on a board. So you're not going to forget them. Like, you're going to be working on them even in your subconscious, day to day. But you might not be able to make it all happen, especially if you're on mat leave or, not got your child into any nursery at all. So it helped me sort of compartmentalize what I could do now with what I could do later. And then the Dream and Do was a way of women being able to come and talk about all of their, hopes and dreams, aspirations, but also the everyday. So like we've talked about those sticky points and And why are we not managing to do certain things that we really want to do? You know, like the daily movement, looking after yourself physically, getting in that self-care. It shouldn't be another stick to beat ourselves with that we haven't managed to do self-care, but it should be something that we do honor for ourselves, that we do make time for in the way that works for us. So, because that is so complex and there's so much underneath all of that, we have these meetups once a month where people talk about how their month's been, how they, and it's mainly about how they feel. And then when we feel good is when we can do the good stuff we want to do. So it's both, it's being and doing, which is why I call it dreaming and doing, because we're not just sticking stuff on a vision board and then forgetting about it. And it's just like a
Yeah.
pretty picture at the side. It is something that we're sort of actively trying to live and breathe, but not do it all at once. So it's that pacing too. And so then when I wrote the book, Me to We, that was a way of bringing together a lot of different coaching courses and experiences that I'd benefited from and bring them all into one. And because there is so much in the book, I really wanted to take people through it so that they could really discuss it, explore it, get more support from me to actually do what's in the book. So that's why Me to We has a whole Me to We group coaching is a whole program. I do think everyone gets so much from hearing each other talk, and you go, oh yeah, me too. And you'll bring up things that other people don't think of, and they'll bring up things you don't think of. And therefore you all benefit from all of that conversation. And
Yeah.
it's really powerful, isn't it? I know you
Yeah.
do a lot of community work too.
I just think there's something so powerful about just spending like even half an hour with other mothers or other women, that it just, you leave feeling like, oh, okay, I can do this, you know. And I organize, not so much now because it's too hot, but in the winter months and the rest of the year we do walks, like just where mums can just meet up and we go for a walk and we go and get a coffee and just really basic chit chat. And other times things get really deep and people open up and talk about, like, you know, problems they're having or struggles. And then other times it will just be moaning about boys, and
But it's what's
great.
needed. Yeah, it's what's needed. Women have always done this. It's like come about that we live in these nuclear families, these little boxes all on our own. And I talk quite a lot in the first two chapters, you'll remember, that the loneliness and the fact that I finally became a mum at a totally different age to my previous friends. So I've had a really strong group of friends from my secondary school, from my university days, and I was out of time with all of those great women. There was a couple that I were having their seconds, and I had my first, and we got to meet up. But it's so hard parenting at a different age to your friends and family, and that was very much something that I experienced. And I think even if you don't, it can still feel really lonely, like
Yeah.
not having those sort of richer conversation. And like you say, you're not always in the mood for it. You don't always want it or need it. But when you do want to talk about it, I talk in the book about feeling like no one around me really got me. Like
Mm.
I had all this stuff going on, and that is the matrescence thing, isn't it? I had all this stuff going on, and people just see that I was doing all the things, and that, well, you know, you've got what you wanted and you're doing it. Like, why aren't you happy about it? Why aren't you more at peace with it? Yeah, so it is needed to be able to have this conversation. And unfortunately, you know, we are at more distance to a lot of our friends and family, so we haven't got that support. And people don't just turn up at each other's houses with and share meals and do those everyday chores for each other like they used to. I mean, if you watch programs on TV, Call the Midwife and things like that,
Yeah.
that is how people used to live more. My mum didn't work till I went to school. They used to just get together, and it was all very spontaneous. It didn't have to be booked and planned and appointments, because that's the mental load, isn't it? Like making
Mm.
it was more community, and it just happened naturally. And so it is harder, I think, in a lot of ways these days to get those conversations.
I also think the difficulties of working come into that as well,
Yes.
right? Like my mum was the same. She was a childminder, so she was always at home with us and other kids. And so people would just swing by. You know, it's different when you're out at work all day and then having to come home and look after kids and sort the house out and everything. It's like another thing on the plate. Sometimes it feels like someone coming round is like another
Well,
stress.
we're on a hamster wheel, aren't we? We're on a hamster wheel. Like you say, the whole day is routined around school hours and work hours. Whereas what I said was that my mum wasn't working till I went to school. So she did have those years of
Yeah.
of flexibility. And we are talking about times, aren't we, when women weren't tied to paid work hours. So it wasn't that women didn't work, but it's the inflexibility that work and school terms and times can bring. So the flexible working is so powerful for women. Good childcare, more flexible working, just sort of living more flexibly is really powerful. And that's why I chose to go self-employed. I'm sure that had a factor for you as well, of being more in control and being able to flex and flow with not just how you're feeling, but how your children are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. There's a lot of work to be done in that area for sure, for sure. And I hope that, within the next sort of 10 years that things do start to change, with all of us lot knocking on everyone's
Yes.
doors and shouting about it. So I hope so. So on that then, where can people buy your book? Where can people get involved with your coaching and hear about all the incredible things that you are doing and working on?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you more. So I have an email called Weekend Wonders that I send out every Sunday. So the idea is it's a bit that seasonal living. It is a lot of reflection questions. So I put 3 questions in every week to help you reflect on things. And it'll be linked to the season that I'm living and what's going on in my life. So at the minute it'll be about the summer holidays and looking after yourself and your kids and not putting too much pressure on yourself, and how do you fit in work and fun over the summer. So you can sign up for that. My website, it's rebeccahogan.co.uk. Equally, there's links through my Instagram bio. So on Instagram, I'm Rebecca Hogan with an underscore. And you can click the links in my bio, and there's a link to sign up to my Weekend Wonders. You can find my book links on there. My book Need to We is available on Amazon and lots of other great websites. So depending on where you are in the world, Amazon works quite well, but there's Barnes and Noble. Lots of places stock that online. And then, there's my Rediscover You course and my Me to We course. So my Me to We course is very much mapped in line with the book. The Rediscover You course is, I'd say, for the woman who is just trying to get more of herself into her life. So it doesn't go into the matrescence and all the identity shift. It's very much a deep dive into who am I and what matters to me most, and how can I make sure I'm living that. So if you're someone who's struggling with what people call balance in life, or feeling pulled in different directions and not sure if you're using your time and energy how you really want to be using it, that's good for you. So that's kind of good for mums that may be a bit further along. But I really recommend digging into matrescence. We both are very passionate about that and helping mums through that, aren't we? So
Yeah.
if you are grappling with the guilt, the lack of ability to ask for help, feeling like you're self-sacrificing, pleasing other people rather than yourself, maybe not really sure who you are and what really matters at this stage of life, it's a really good thing to dive in. And I love that you've kept asking me why, because it's the most powerful question, isn't it? Why?
Yeah, it is. And it's like you can do it with everything. You can pull it out at every moment. So yeah, it is hugely powerful. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you've created and made, and everything we've spoken about today. I've really loved it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the podcast. It's so important to get the word out. So we're all doing our bit, aren't we? So thank you for inviting me on and being a great champion for your mums too.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thank you so much for listening to the Mothership Podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode or it supported you in some way, please do subscribe or leave a review or share it with somebody who might need it. These conversations really do matter so much, and every share helps us reach more mums navigating their matrescence. If you'd like to connect with us, we're over on Instagram at lounevitt.co, or if you're in Ibiza, at the Mothership Ibiza. Thanks again, and see you next time.